Recording in progress.
He gives me answers.
Close enough. Good evening. It's Tuesday, October 1st, 2024, 6:30 PM. Call to order the City of Franklin Common Council meeting. Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Mayor Nelson.
Here.
Alderman Pecorelli.
Here.
Alderwoman Eichman.
Here.
Alderman Assam.
Here.
Alderwoman Day.
Here.
Alderman Barber.
Here.
Alderman Craig.
Here. Excellent. Please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, moving to item B1, citizen comment period. Any citizen wishing to speak, please approach the podium, state your name and address for the record. 3 minutes maximum. I'll be the timekeeper. Citizen comment period is now open. See no one, I'll close citizen comment period. Moving on to item B2, a proclamation recognition of Mr. Larry C. Peterson. I'll be coming down over here. So before I read this, one important thing to Mr. Peterson is his hard and tireless work on the Board of Water Commissioners, which is one of those positions that has a lot of responsibility and takes a lot of work and due diligence and research to make sure that you are putting forth, especially with this latest water agreement with Oak Creek, which is a 40-year, multi-million-dollar deal, to make sure that that is done right. So I'd like to read this proclamation at this time. A proclamation recognition of the gratitude to Larry C. Peterson for his over 30 years of public service as a member of the City of Franklin Board of Water Commissioners. Whereas Larry C. Peterson was appointed to serve as a member of the City of Franklin Board of Water Commissioners by the City of Franklin Common Council on December 21st, 1993, and has substantially served with all of his work efforts, research, knowledge, and expertise. And whereas after the recent finalization and approval of a public water supply agreement to serve the city for the next 40 years, following the completion this year of a 30-year public water supply agreement serving the city, both which Larry worked on with the Board of Water Commissioners, Larry determined it was time for his position of service on the board to end. And he recently submitted his resignation. And whereas Larry has been a Franklin resident for over 3 decades, and after establishing his residence in a new development area, one of the fastest growing cities in Wisconsin, he read an article asking for people that would be interested in volunteering to serve on local government boards, and Larry applied to his home city to serve. Whereas Larry spent his working career in an engineering capacity, starting at what was originally Nordberg Manufacturing Company and continuing with its successors for 24 years, designing maintenance equipment for the major United States and Canadian railroads. And whereas all of Larry's years of public service were based upon doing what was right and volunteering those efforts for the people. Now, therefore, be proclaimed that I, John R. Nelson, Mayor of the City of Franklin, Wisconsin, on behalf of all the citizens of Franklin, hereby provide the recognition of and express our gratitude for the years of public service and benefits therefrom to our public health, safety, and welfare received from and upon the work Larry C. Peterson, which benefits shall exist for years and years to come. Good luck and Godspeed, Larry. Presented to the City of Franklin Common Council this first day of October, 2024. Thank you. If you did prepare a speech, now's your time.
He's a quiet man.
Service speaks.
Yes. Well done. Moving on to item C, approval of the minutes, regular common council meeting of September 17th, 2024. Before we go for a motion, Madam Clerk has something to add.
On item G9, where it says common council at a special meeting, we're taking out the word special because it's a regular common council meeting on October 15th.
With that adjustment, is there a motion?
Move to approve.
I'll second.
We have a first and a second. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. We have no hearings under D. David. Under E, organizational. Mayoral Commission appointments, Amanda Pound, 8255 West Forest Hill Avenue. Franklin Public Schools Director of Teaching and Learning, Library Board, 3-year unexpired term expiring June 30th, 2026.
Motion to approve.
Motion approved, seconded by Alderman Craig. Do a roll call, please.
Alderman Peccarelli.
Aye.
Alderwoman Eichman.
Aye.
Alderman Hassan.
Aye.
Alderwoman Day.
Aye.
Alderman Barber.
Aye.
Alderman Craig.
Aye.
6 ayes on those, motion carries. Thank you, everybody. Going to F, we have no letters. Going into G1. Judge, welcome. If you wish to come up here and just have a seat, I'll read this.
I just wanna-
No, right here. You sit, yeah. Authorization for municipal judge to execute a contract with Language Line Services, Inc. There'll probably be a motion pretty quick, but if you just want to give a brief overview of.
Is this on?
Yeah, just bring it real close, Judge. It's like, yeah, Carrie.
Right here? Okay. All right. So what is Language Line? You guys are all probably wondering. I did speak briefly about this at the finance meeting, but for those of you that weren't at the meeting and don't understand what Language Line is, the municipal courts are required to provide interpreters for defendants. So in accordance with, this is the Wisconsin State Statute is 885.37. Now, there's language in that statute that talks about may, but it is strongly encouraged, and now it's been something that is heightened, because when I went to the judges conference, it was kind of made a big deal that anyone who is a defendant that does not speak English, doesn't matter what language it is, it requires an interpreter. So many times we do have a lot of Spanish-speaking clients, and those Spanish-speaking clients, our city attorney can obviously accommodate. But when they come back to the courtroom to enter into their stip or whatever it is that they decide to do, whether it be a trial or a stip, it requires an interpreter. So there's this service, it's called Language Line Services Incorporated. And Amanda, one of the court clerks, submitted to you guys, this is a request for me to be able to use this service, as well as the courtroom, for on-demand translation via phone. And it's a pretty easy service. It does all different types of languages. We've got multiple courtrooms that are using this now. And so I am asking the Common Council to accept the statement of work and the master service agreement with the Language Line Services. Just real briefly, it's 72 cents a minute. That is really pretty much the cost. And we've presented to the Finance Committee a budget that will accommodate for that. It's not an expensive budget. It's just here and there. It's really not an every court date occurrence. Let's just put it that way. So what we would do essentially is, if the person gets up to the podium and he or she does not speak the language, they will say, I don't understand, I need an interpreter. And then what we would do is we'd call the language line, we'd get on the phone with them, and we would have somebody interpreting in the language that that person speaks. So it's 72 cents a minute to use that type of service. And I've submitted to you the statement of work as well as the master service agreement with Language Line. If you guys have any questions, let me know, but otherwise it's pretty straightforward. Multiple courts are using it at this time, including municipal courts. In Milwaukee, particularly the Milwaukee Muni Court, they might have a little bit more money, so they've got obviously in-person interpreters that come in. We're not there. So we are going to go the more economic route and choose Language Line by phone.
Thank you, Judge.
I'll make the motion to authorize.
Okay, so we've got Alderwoman Eichman, Alderman Barber. Further discussion?
I just have one.
Okay, Alderwoman Day, then Alderman Barber.
Just one other thing I thought of after we spoke at Finance. They also have a kind of, it's like a regular piece of paper, but it literally says, I need an interpreter in every language that they have, and you can just laminate that and put that right
that's a good
at the desk. And so
suggestion.
they don't even have to be able to say, I don't understand. They
Sure.
can just point, because basically it says, I need an interpreter in all of those language. And then they point to it, and then there's, the English version of whatever that language is. So
Yeah.
when you call, you can say, oh, I need Hindu, I need Farsi, I need Spanish, and that'll
That's a great
faster.
suggestion.
So
I will take
just-
that into
just so that-
consideration.
Just so you know that that's out there as well.
Thank you. I will take that into consideration.
Excellent. Alderman Barber?
Is this limited strictly to the courts, or would it be available possibly for other departments? Could it be?
It's a great question. I think it is being used for other departments as well. I think Alderwoman Day can talk more about that because it's used in the healthcare industry. But if you want to let him know.
We can talk about that offline because this is
Yeah.
on right now for the court.
Yeah.
You still got the floor, Alderman?
That was my question, whether it could be expanded or not. You answered.
Yes. The answer is yes.
Excellent. We got a first and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Motion carries. Judge, thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay.
And
That was easy.
your driver arrived, so it's perfect.
I
George,
think he's
welcome.
just here to observe.
Well, he did well. Going on to item G2. Thank you, Judge. Franklin Public School District information presentation with regard to a referendum question to be on the November 5th, 2024 election ballot. What? Shall the Franklin Public School District, Milwaukee County, Wisconsin, be authorized to issue pursuant to Chapter 67 of the Wisconsin statutes, general obligation bonds in an amount not to exceed $145 million for the public purpose of paying the cost of a school facility improvement project consisting of Americans with Disabilities Act compliance updates, capital maintenance, building system, safety, security, and site improvements at the elementary schools and Franklin High School, construction of additions and renovations at Franklin High School, including for technical education space improvements, classroom and special education areas, science lab improvements, new indoor physical education spaces, and a field house, a pool, and tennis courts, and acquisition of furnishings, fixtures, and equipment, with a question mark after that. So, good evening and welcome. And there's be a presentation, and just so everybody's clear, we are also welcoming, if the other school districts wish to do the exact same thing, we are welcoming to whoever can provide, I'll start over, and whoever can provide accurate information and clear up some misconceptions. So good evening, Madam Superintendent, Mr. Sprague, and I'm sorry, gentlemen,
Nicholas Kent, architect.
and Mr. Architect, Mr. Kent. So what we'll do is, if you would just like to briefly run through what's going on, and then they'll answer some questions from up here. And thank you for appearing. And just for the record, to state your name and business address for the record. That can be whatever school.
Good evening, Mayor Nelson, council members. We really appreciate the opportunity. In February I'm Mike Sprague, President of Franklin Public School Board of Education, 8255 Forest Hill. In February of 2023, Franklin Public Schools embarked on a master facilities study in order to assess the largest asset of our school district, which enrolls about 4,700 kids. In August of 2023, the master facilities study was presented to the school board, and over the next year, the board and community deliberated over what to do with the findings. We conducted many listening sessions and communicated out in many ways in order to be as transparent as possible, and we appreciate the venue of the city council meeting to further get out correct information, so voters can make an informed decision in November. In June, the school board approved the proposed, the referendum, which you just read, and we look forward to the community voicing their opinion on this matter.
I echo the appreciation for having the opportunity to be in front of you tonight, council, so thank you for the time. Annalee Bennon, the district administrator for Franklin Public Schools. I'm going to walk you through some information of the referendum resolution that the board came to in June, as Mr. Sprague talked about. We've done our introductions, but a couple of the partners at the table were with PRA Architecture. We've also worked with Cadence Consulting, and CD Smith Construction Company is our construction. Just a little bit of the timeline. So this has been a conversation that's been going on in district for well over a year and a half. I mean, starting at looking at our long-range facility planning, which goes back to the support we saw from the community to build the Performing Arts Center at the high school, to build a new Forest Park Middle School, and now continuing to look forward at for some of those additions for the high school and our other buildings that we need to be looking at. Where I'm going to start tonight is really picking up at April. So in April, all of you have received a survey to ask about your feedback in regards to the next stage of our long-range facility planning. So at that time, we took those survey results. They came to our board in May, and then in June, the board came around resolution on our next steps. So a little look back at that survey, the results of it on our website. You can find all of the information I'm going through tonight and a plethora of additional information. But overall, that survey said there's 64% approval to look at and think about what does this look like for a referendum for the district. We then dove into what are the aspects of projects that we are recommending at this time. One of those projects, there's 3 total. One was to look at updating buildings and grounds. So of overall maintenance within the district across our 5 elementary schools and Franklin High School. Forest Park Middle School being only in about year 5, we don't have major maintenance costs, understandably, in that building. The green check mark is showing us that through the survey from all of you in our community, there was approval to go ahead and look at that and say we would support, I shouldn't say approval, I'm sorry, support to look at what that is. The second project that we looked at of the 3 in that survey when we were asking the community to gauge where support would be was looking at Countrydale Elementary. The map on the screen is showing a little bit about where current Countrydale is, was showing a proposed location on land that the district currently owns to raise or tear down the existing school and rebuild it as the maintenance needs and the age of the building are kind of hitting their peak. The community at this time said we're not in support of that right now. I wouldn't engage in that. The third project of the 3 is looking at some areas of the high school. So in the 2012 referendum where the Performing Arts Center came through, and we looked at a few of our classrooms, that looked at about 23% of the building. This is looking at a majority of the rest of the building. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a few minutes. But from the survey results, it said, yes, we are, there looks to be support in the community to explore further. So what our job from there was as a school board is the board to look at what do we do with this information? What resolution do we want to come around to bring this question to our community to ultimately decide where the support lies for Franklin Public Schools and our growth? Oh, sorry. So what we came to, with the board came around resolution, you saw is for $145 million, and that's really into 2 chunks. The first is $21.9 million of that. So this will be one question, but $21.9 million of that is to look at the buildings and grounds across our 5 elementary schools and the existing high school, and some of the major repairs and systems that just get caught up over time in a building and are some of those bigger expenses. Our buildings and grounds does a nice job of keeping up on our buildings, but some of those bigger pieces come along over time.
Just to take a quick look at what some of those things might be. And before we look at these, just to be clear, the numbers that Anna Lee just revealed for the maintenance at the 5 elementary schools, we have the privilege of working with school districts all over our state and our region. And these are actually very common things that we find as buildings age, we have to look at replacing various systems and components. So some of the things specifically that we'll be looking at from a maintenance standpoint at the elementary schools are things like roofs that have exceeded their lifespan and are beginning to fail. Smaller things like fencing that may seem like a trivial item, but it's important to maintain the aesthetics and the upkeep of the buildings and keep our students and community safe. Places like exterior envelopes, so things like cracked soffits. So it may seem like a small thing, but if we let those things go over time, we get moisture infiltration and the buildings start to deteriorate. Staircases are safety issues. We want to make sure everybody who's accessing these sites have safe access points to the buildings. Asphalt, we all know we have driveways, things need to be replaced over time. And then areas of our windows, our exterior envelope are just past their useful service life. So really this is upkeeping these buildings.
Thank you, Nick. The other aspect that we're looking at, the $123.1 million of the 145 is specific to Franklin High School. And so as I mentioned in the 2012 referendum that the community supported, it was about 23% of the building that was looked at or added onto. So this is really renovating a great portion of what remains that's original to the school. So a lot of our career and technical education spaces like our shop, tech ed, woods, construction. We'll talk a little deeper about those. Those are some of the bigger areas being looked at. Our athletic facilities, which also support our physical education for all of our students and well-being, along with our culinary arts, our pool, and some of our special education spaces and science labs. If we took an aerial, if we were flying over the high school right now, this is what we would see. This is the existing space. Off to the right of the screen is the PAC and some of the renovation that came after 2012. We're looking more at the left side of the screen, which is the north side of the building. So using some of that green space, which we'll walk through in a minute, and also raising or adding onto parts of the existing building on that north to central part. If you were to go to the website where there's a great deal of information about the referendum, you'd see a phasing video that runs about 2 minutes, and it really walks through what you're seeing on the screen right now is these different colored areas that represent the different areas we're addressing if there's a successful referendum. So the career and technical education space is a little bit closer look. The pictures on the top are showing our woods in construction class. So currently we build a home in the city of Franklin each year with our Construction 2 class, and it starts with learning at the high school. Currently that exists in a facility from 1970, original to the building. It's not right size, it's not necessarily safe. The sound in there, especially with classrooms above it, is not safe for the students in the room, for the students above that are learning. There's major constraints for space, and there's wait lists for students that don't get the opportunity to take the class because we simply don't have enough space for that. If you had mobility issues or other ADA issues, there's compliance problems that we want to address through this referendum. And we know that this is areas where our students can graduate and move into roles immediately. We have 12 students on our worksite in Construction 2 right now. Most of them will likely leave with some kind of trade position or youth apprenticeship that they will be able to walk away from that experience. So that's looking kind of at the green and blue area on the screen and the proposed draft. It's definitely draft form, but moving that out of a back basement corner where it's not very visual to other students and moving it up to be more centrally located and visible to students to know opportunities that we have. Other career technical education spaces we have are for metals and manufacturing. So there's a plethora of jobs also available for our students in these areas. The more that we can get through these programs and understand those experiences, the better opportunities they have to get into the workforce upon graduation. And right now, our space, much like construction and woods, needs to be right-sized. It needs to be larger to take care of the needs of the students, the ones that are requesting to be in it. They're not all getting that opportunity. Also, our welding labs are the red curtains you can kind of see in the background. Poor lighting, poor ventilation, you'll hear through a lot of these spaces. The ADA compliance, I'll really encourage to come do a tour. I'll show those dates at the end. You get the feel for the impact that this has when you can't get enough students in that space, you can't move around them, or you can't work safely. Again, that'd be moving it kind of out of that darker corner of the basement and up into the more visible space in the school. Our family and consumer science might have been called home ec, like when I was in school. We now call it family and consumer science. This is really preparing our students to go into the culinary arts. Right now, our kitchens, the photos that you see here resemble maybe what you have in your home, maybe not even of the class in your home yet. They definitely don't resemble what our students would be seeing if they were to go out and work at any of the restaurants where there's jobs available throughout the greater Milwaukee area. So it's looking at, again, making that space larger so we can accommodate the wait list we have. So it's a need for the students. It's making it accessible to all students. Again, mobility in that space. If you were wheelchair bound, you're going to have issues with being able to use that equipment or even move around the space. And again, taking care of those wait lists that exist. We have a capstone class, meaning we're having students leave even maybe with credits towards college or workforce opportunities that we want to address for everybody. Autos, we have an autos program that has won some state and national awards. Our students work very hard under our instructor, and they're, again, in a space, it repeats a lot, but that's not quite right-sized yet. In this space in particular, you can kind of see in the photos, the lifts for the vehicles have to be specially made, and we can't put the cars up all the way, or they would knock out the water system for our fire alarm system and have other issues with hitting the lights. The ventilation in this space isn't the best for our students. The accessibility, again, there's wait lists, and just accessibility to getting under those vehicles and really learning how to work with them. It does not resemble at all where I take my vehicle to get work done, and it doesn't yet have all the equipment to know the electronics and things going on with vehicles. There will be 600,000 jobs in the United States in the next 5 years. If we can get students through this program and take care of the need for the wait list we have, they're going to go out and have jobs right away. They're also going to have support in that workforce to continue their education. Physical education and athletics space. If you've been in the high school, in the gymnasium, it's the same one that exists with the building when it was built. It looks great due to our amazing custodial staff that takes care of it. None of it's original to the building. The floors and things like that have been updated through time, but it's a one-station gym. We're a Division I school. It's typical to have a 4 to 5 station gym. So our students are practicing in the 9:30, 10 o'clock hour at night. A lot of our programs have to go to elementary schools and try to utilize space there just to have time for our after-school activities and athletics. During the day, for our physical education spaces and life skills, we have, again, wait lists, or we might have students overflowing into the hallway to make space. So we'd be looking at adding a field house, which gives us a 5-station gym. Still leaves us a couple gym spaces short across the district to really get to our ideal of having kids home by 8:39 p.m. at night versus practices, but it gets us much closer to reliable times and getting more opportunities for the students. Our weight room currently is on the 2nd floor at the high school, and it is 2 converted classrooms. So if we went by the national standards for what that space should look like or can hold capacity-wise, it would be about 24 students. You'll see more than 24 in there any given day, but there's safety concerns with the space. Obviously, the floors and the ceilings aren't right equipped for the equipment that's in there, the activity that's taking place. Again, limiting access for some students in that area. So this would be something we'd be looking at being a part of that field house, right? All of these spaces coming together. Our multi-purpose room, so just an additional space because we only have that one court gym. This is actually the old band room. So in the 2012 supported referendum, we were able to build band spaces that are closer to the Performing Arts Center, the Saber Center, and converted that room into being able to best utilize it for multi-purpose. So we can't have all of our dance or cheer practices in there because it doesn't allow the right size ceiling height, or space size, but it at least helps a bit with some of our Parks and Recs program too, as we also run that through the school district. Again, so when we're looking at the proposed draft drawing of what this is moving out into that field house space and creating the opportunity to bring all of this area together. We also have a pool at the high school. It was built in 1974, so we're celebrating 50 years. The pool's way of celebrating is it leaks about 1,000 gallons of water a week. So obviously not running at the best efficiency. It's an original filtration system, so our buildings and ground staff is certified in how to add the proper chemicals to ensure our students are safe in the pool. But that would typically now be running in a pool through a computerized system that's the most accurate. We have a tile replacement system, so our crew goes through weekly and glues down tiles, or we bring in a diver to fix tiles that are in the pool. Also, you should typically have to drain a pool every 3 years for maintenance. We've drained it the last 2 summers, which is an added expense but necessary for safety. The lighting, is another area that needs some updates. It doesn't meet WIA compliance and be able to host bigger events, so we'd be looking at going from a 6-lane to an 8-lane to be able to accommodate those pieces. Tennis courts, we can't give you a current because we don't have tennis courts on site in the district. So our tennis team, we do have a high school tennis team. We're always about creating opportunity and finding a way to make it happen. So our students leave the city of Franklin to practice and for their tennis matches. But we'd be proposing putting tennis courts in this orange area you see on the screen. So that would be an addition. It would also offer not only having that on site and offer opportunities through our Parks and Rec program, but it would also offer ability to build some pickleball in and other things that we hear requests through the Park and Rec, through our community recreation department, and we'd be able to offer more of that now for our community. A lot of this space within the building and the field house too is going to offer more walking space indoors, which we have a good amount of community members currently that come in and use that space, get out of the elements in the winter and stay healthy. We want to continue to offer that in a bigger format. So when we look at what does that $145 million look like as a referendum item, if you're, I look at it as if you're in a $400,000 home It's $328 a year, so under $1 a day. A lot of that is funding how we've defeased money in our budget this year. So 85 million would have no impact on our taxes, meaning it would stay steady to where we're at. And so that's why you're seeing a great number of pieces that we're looking at as needs that are coming through this $145 million ask. If you're wanting to know more, like I've mentioned on the website, there's a plethora of information. There's some upcoming dates with tours and information that we'll be hosting at the high school. But this map also is available on the website, and you can click through it and see videos of the spaces, of students working in the spaces, some anecdotal to what that experience is like and what the need is. To dive deeper, it's hard to abbreviate it into about 10 minutes, so I appreciate your attention to that part and ability to go explore further as you see fit to be informed when you go to the polls in November. And as I mentioned, those community information sessions, we have 3 coming up. So Saturday the 12th, we'll have one at noon at the high school, Wednesday, October 16th, and Friday, October 25th at 10 a.m. That's a no student day, so that's why we can have it during the day on a weekday. But each of those will be some information similar to what I have done right now for you as a council, and then also a tour of the space. And I think when people see the space, like some of you have spent time doing, you notice the difference in what is there now and what the need could be for our students. Any questions for any of us? And thank you for your time.
Thank you, number one, thank you. So yes, we're going to go around with some questions. I'll speak last on what Alderwoman Day, do you want to start?
Sure, I can, unless anyone else wants to go.
Alderman Barber, you want to start, then Alderwoman Day?
I want to thank you for this presentation. It's very informative. I'm also glad to see that these community information sessions are going to be held, and I think you'll get some input from that. How is that being advertised, or how will the community know that these sessions are there for them?
Absolutely. So we set those dates upon the board coming to resolution. So we've had them out there since July. In front of you, you also have a Franklin Focal Point. That's our all community mailer. The one in front of you is a sneak peek. It should land in your mailbox tomorrow or Thursday. They've been printed in that publication, which goes to everybody's mailbox. They've been posted on social media. They're listed on our district website. And then we've been available and present at a number of events, either at the school or in the community, where we've handed out postcards with those dates also.
Again, thank you. And
Alderwoman Day?
Thank you. I just have 2 questions. The first one, I think I know the answer to because you sort of alluded to it with the tennis courts, but with the increase in space having a 5-gym field house or a 5-station field house as opposed to a 1, and the bigger pool, are you also looking to increase community activities in those arenas as well for the rec department? Because I know that there's a lot of interest to use the pool currently for swim classes. Would that be increased with that? Would the Franklin Fire Department be able to use the pool now for their dive training as opposed to going somewhere else? Things like that. Are you incorporating other community uses for these spaces?
Yeah, as much as we can, we're going to incorporate additional. Right now, our study of how many gym spaces we'd need across district to accommodate what we have is 19. We'll still be a few short of that if this is a successful referendum. So we don't rather underpromise, overproduce, but we're definitely like ability to walk in the school and utilize that space, ability to add pickleball and some open swim times we know will be things that we definitely can do. And then those other areas you mentioned are ones that we also we hope to be able to do with a successful referendum.
And then my second question, it's sort of multi-pronged from things that I've heard people saying in conversation and things when people ask me about it that live in my friends that live in other districts and ask questions. So I know some districts around here have sort of transitioned to, I'm going to say, a sponsorship model for some of the athletic spaces. I don't really know the specifics of how that happens, or even if I think that is a great idea. I don't want the side of our building to look like a NASCAR uniform, with like sponsors all over it. But is that something that was looked into? Like I said, I don't know the parameters or what goes into that, but you do see when you drive around that, certain gyms have, a logo of a company that may have sponsored or put some money toward the particular improvements that were made. And then the second part to that is, again, with the funding piece. You gave us the breakdown for taxes per person, but what I'm curious about is, and again, I've seen this before in other presentations that the school district has done, but where does Franklin rate as far as mill rate? When you look at the mill rate that the Franklin School District has compared to other school districts' mill rate in their tax bill, where are we located? Are we kind of towards the bottom? Like when we look at our city taxes and you look across the board, we're generally very, very low compared to our neighbors. Is that the same for the school district as well? Are we kind of in the middle? We kind of at the top? Where is that?
Sure. So I'll answer the first question with the naming rights. So you do see naming rights on buildings at times. It never is taking on the whole space, right? So when we're looking at the Franklin High School needs at 123 million, we're not going to have a donation for that or for even a big portion of that, but you could get naming rights. So a lot of times when you see it in different gymnasiums, it's written by board policy, like how much it is to have your name actually on that facility. We haven't had anybody step forward with that offering. We definitely would be open to it if we did. And the board would look at what our policy language is around that.
One of the things that have improved this year is the scoreboard, both in the football field or on the football stadium and inside the gym, are brand new and completely covered by sponsorship money. So it is something that we're doing maybe on a smaller scale than this, but you know, it's still a rather large amount of money that was covered by donors.
Absolutely. And then to your second question, we're about in the middle, I would say, compared to districts, or maybe just a little above middle. I wouldn't want to give an exact number, but we do have that data like on our website also.
Yeah, that's great. I just wanted to kind of on the big curve, kind of where we sit.
Yep, not the highest, not the lowest, but yes.
Thank you, and thank you for taking the time to present tonight.
Thank you for giving us time.
Alderman Craig, then Alderwoman Eichmann.
Thank you. So if this referendum is successful, I know that there will be the question mark of, okay, past this, when do shovels go in the ground? When are we looking for, what's the timeline kind of look like as far as passage of the referendum and really cool ribbon cutting? When does that, what does that look like?
So it's a magical timeline in the sense that part of the building like the pool will have to be taken out first to start on the north side, and we'll have to work from north to south at the high school. The phasing video on the website is the best place to point you to see that. But right now, a very projected timeline for completion would be 2028 to be complete. So when you talk ribbon cutting, as far as it's done, shovel in the ground, starting it out, you're probably looking at about a year after referendum passing.
Okay. And then my last question, and one of the things in your presentation, which I think is fantastic, is when you talk about the career and tech ed spaces, especially when you talk about the growth in those areas and what that looks like for the students in that regard. My question would be is a little more in the weeds is, do you have the bandwidth to support that growth with staffing? Or is this something where pass a referendum, got this great, beautiful space, but you don't have teachers to kind of take advantage of that space? And I know you got at least a year to kind of start looking at building your bench, but is that something that is part of the game plan or the strategic planning as far as what goes into this, as far as that goes?
Absolutely. Right now, we have an outstanding staff that has some capacity to continue to grow. But if we're meeting all the needs of students that are on a wait list, we know we'll have to probably grow staff in some spots, right? But with any high school scheduling, if our enrollment is going up, so you will have some add that way. But usually if students are showing more interest in that area, you have some shift. I think a good example would be we've added culinary instructors since the 2012 past referendum because we've been able to increase the pathway or the roles and depth of courses that our learners can be in. So we've increased our educators in that space because there's been a demand. So yep, that's definitely something we're thinking about and looking at ahead of time to be ready for when that comes.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Alderwoman Eichmann. Alderman
Thank you,
Picarelli.
Mayor. So my question relates to the basic class size of Franklin High School. So the high school is the same high school that I attended and had 178 students in my class in 1991. I know that because I do my class reunions. The same high school the mayor attended in '86, and Alderman Pecorelli is a Franklin High School graduate of '93. So with 178 students in a class in 1991, what is approximately the senior class this year? How many students now?
Sure, we have over 1,600 students in the high school, so a graduating class is usually in the low 400s. I don't know the current senior class off the top of my head, but yeah, usually low 400s is where we're at for graduating.
Thank you.
That's it?
I just was.
You brought
I
90,
just was
86,
curious
93,
as to-
91. I thought this was going
Well,
somewhere.
3 of us from Franklin High School graduates. No, I just wanted to point out this, the same high school that was used for.
I got it.
Class size is half the size as compared to now.
Excellent
So,
point.
thank you.
Alderman Pickering?
So this construction's gonna go on, obviously, while we got a couple years and the school will be in session for part of that and everything. So can you talk to the impact of any type of class, class availability impact or any of those types of things during that, let's say, 2026 to 2028 timeframe?
Absolutely. So in working with CD Smith, we've talked through that timeline that we talked a little bit about with Mr. Craig's question. And students won't be in trailers learning or anything along that you see. So all of the planning and part of that timeline of it taking longer is to make sure that we're finishing a section so we can move students or courses to work on a next section so that there shouldn't be displacement outside of the high school in the planning that's taking place. And that's part of the starting on the north end to build so that then when we're tearing down or repurposing middle areas, we're able to shift students to some of that space. But it will mean they probably change classrooms maybe between years, but not be off-site. But with that, a pool will be taken down and then have to be rebuilt with the field house. So we know we'll have to figure out some swim alternates for our team and things like that in between. And once we have a past referendum, we'll start those conversations with area districts or other people that have pools to see what that can look like.
Thank you.
Okay, so a couple things. Now, one of which I'd gone on that tour, and I last year walked through and saw all the areas, and a number of things jumped out at me that, you're right, the timelines on there, there's a lot of cause for great concern. Our community is growing. I mean, the last time I was in that auto shop was when I had my own 1969 Chevelle that I used to work on in my auto shop. That was the greatest thing ever. And then you go up to math and, have headaches. But where I really, see this as a community, and, you look back to the years that Alderwoman Eichmann mentioned and the size of the city and how we are growing and how we are very, appealable to many people. And we have a great appeal to builders, people coming in here. Our community is only going to be growing. And the biggest, other than making sure you got a great police department, safe, fire department, DPW, schools, they're all up in that top tier of what attracts people to come to a community. And I had the pleasure again of going to the homecoming game on Friday night, and it was amazing to look into the stands and see people, opposed to when I played, we lost every game, so nobody showed, but it was like 1,000 people up there, and it was amazing to where this community involvement is and the excitement with the community. And it's kind of, I get very humbled when I go to an event like that and seeing all the wonderful people of our community come together, and they're part of it, they're involved in it, they're everything. It's changed so much over the years, and we are very blessed to have that community that we are in the driver's seat to make it better, to give the amenities that people expect and deserve when they come to Franklin. And I know that I would encourage all of you that have not yet taken a walk tour through to do so, because you'll see in some areas, unfortunately, it's like a time capsule of wow, this hasn't changed in 30 some years. And then you look at what you just presented on the needs and what's moving forward. I mean, you're talking, the trades alone for the mechanics, what was it, 600% it's going to?
600,000 jobs in the next 5 years.
I mean, you're hearing that the dealerships, there's a couple of dealerships in Franklin, I've spoken to the owners, and they can't find mechanics. They can't find quality mechanics to get there and stay. So you've got a lot of, plus the welding program. There's a lot of trades. I know that's a big pressure in MATC. They don't have enough. The waiting list is long to get into a program to start tomorrow for the apprenticeship. There's a lot going on here that's connected. So I just want to, I'm not, going to we can't go out there and promote more, but I would highly, highly, highly encourage somebody that has questions to take one of those 3 tour dates and get involved and see what this community's challenges are. And it's actually, you look at MPS, they're declining enrollment with huge financial issues. And you look at us that are a slow incline in with population, but we are looking at our one high school, and our one high school, the gem, needs to be updated, upgraded, and get with where we're at with 36,000 people now. Probably when I graduated was 20, low 20s maybe. It's a whole different world. So I will continue open if anything else, anyone's got anything else to say, I'm done for now. Thank you very much for coming tonight.
Thank you.
And excellent.
Thank you.
There's no, this is information only, no action to be taken on this. Item G3, request to enter into professional services agreement between the City of Franklin and ePlex LLC DBA E-Plan Exam for building permit plan review services. Director, good evening, welcome.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council. With me tonight, I have D.A. Maddox, President of E-Plan Exam, to answer any questions anybody may have that I can't answer.
Excellent. So what we'll do, it's I just bring it real close, please. And when you speak, sir, if you're going to speak, just state your name and then business address would be great. And Director, you've got the floor.
Good evening, people. I feel this partnership with E-Plan Exam will not only benefit the city by bringing additional revenue that we don't see, all plans that go to the state now, we don't see anything from that. Would also benefit the contractors and businesses as well. Right now, the state's at about 6 to 8 weeks out on plan review. E-Plan guarantees 15 business days, which allows us to get the permits out quicker. Contractors, business owners can start their projects quicker, build them faster, get in. I've talked with many other municipalities using their services and nothing but positive comments. We've sat in a couple of meetings with them, and at times it sounded too good to be true, but there's no negative in this that I can see. I think it'd be a huge plus. Plus, with the looming retirement that I have, possibly coming up with one of my building inspectors, we would lose some of the delegation from the state to do some of the plan reviews that we have, because he has an architect's license. If we lose that, we'd lose some review. Right now, we don't do any plumbing plan review. I don't know if we ever have here in the city of Franklin, but we would also get that as well. And then possibly in the future, I've spoken with Chief Mayor. They also do fire reviews, but that's for another day.
Alderman Barber, then Alderwoman Eichman.
Could you spend a couple of minutes just going over what option A and option B are? I think you're recommending option B at this point with the 10%.
Correct.
So-
I wanted to stay with the,
Go over that a little bit.
I can help out here if you want me to.
go ahead.
My name is David M. Maddox, President, owner of E-Plan Exam, 12605 West North Avenue, Brookfield, Wisconsin. So when we first started our program to offer commercial plan review services to communities, we had insisted this is the fee schedule and this is it. What we found over the last several years is we've been shortchanging our own communities. So what we found is the state had numerous fee schedules in play, depending on whether or not they did inspections within that community. So we started off with the idea of doing different options for pricing and let the communities have a power and a voice in that choice. And some communities have chosen to deviate off that path altogether, and some communities have chosen just option A, option B. When we sat down with your staff, option B represented essentially what you had in place today prior to our involvement, which made it the most seamless. Let's just go with this. We're not changing the vast majority of the fee schedules, and then we can work off a percentage of pretty much what's enacted today.
Thank you.
Alderwoman Eichman?
I was just going to ask them to introduce themselves, especially for the new council members who may not be aware they are.
Yeah, absolutely. Well,
You just did.
I can give you a little more background about the company if you'd like. When we first started about 5 years ago, there were only 6 communities in the state that could do Lambeau Field as a project. I always use that one as an example because up until January, the city of Green Bay couldn't do Lambeau Field in full. And the delegations in the state of Wisconsin are quite weird. Without delegation, it has no choice but to go to the state of Wisconsin. They have all the requirements for plan review throughout the state. Since we started, that list has grown up to 60 communities. E-Plan Exam serves 40 of them. We currently serve an aggregate population around 1.25 million within the state. We have done around 170 million square foot of projects. We've never once exceeded 15 business days. And we try to design a system for code officials, by code officials, while granting full transparency to all of our municipal partners, because we believe you are a true partner in this. And what we try to strive ourselves upon is the idea of prior to us, there was no choice. We want to give everyone a choice in this and how this path kind of proceeds. The choice whether or not you want to become delegated or not, surrender authority or not, or for the contractors, do you want to use our service or continue to go through the state and wait in line?
Okay, thank you. I'm said there, oh,
I make a motion to approve to enter into the professional service agreement.
B.
Yes. Well, I
Option B
didn't say
isn't-
that, but that's what I said.
Okay,
Option B.
option B is in boy. We have
I'll
a
second-
first. I understand you
second
have
that.
a second. We have a first, you said second?
Yep.
Alderman Day. We have a first and a second. Further discussion, Alderman Craig.
Nope, I was going to make the motion to approve.
Okay, we have a first and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all is in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Absolutely.
thank
Good
you.
evening.
G4 has been removed, correct? Excellent. Uh-oh, Mr. City Attorney.
Or return to the council on the request of the property. For the record.
Excellent, the record will reflect that. G5,
Wait,
Alderman Eichman.
Alderman Day, did you want to go first? Did you have a question on that?
I guess,
Okay,
My-
Alderwoman Day, then Alderwoman Eichman.
Well, she had her hand up before me, so I'm just being polite.
just, this is just, and this can be offline, I'm sorry, I don't mean to take time out of this. If there's someone that, since it's District 4, just who I can get a little bit more information from, who should, Director of Administration or City Attorney, or whom should I?
City Attorney, please.
Okay, thank you, that's all I wanted.
Alderman Eichman?
I guess I was just going to ask, so it was tabled at the September 17th, 2024 meeting. So we're tabling it again this evening? Do we need to make a motion to table it? We don't. When are we tabling it till again? Do we know? Do we have a date?
Until there's a request by the property owner.
To bring it back?
Bring it back.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
Thank you. We'll move on to G5. An ordinance to amend ordinance 2023-2569, an ordinance adopting the 2024 annual budget for the Street Improvement Fund and Capital Outlay Fund to reappropriate $61,000 of street improvement appropriations for the purchase of a shouldering machine. This would be also a roll call, one of many tonight.
So moved.
Madam Director of Finance? Okay, we've got a motion. We have a
I mean, unless the Director of Public Works wants to speak on this at all?
Well, we have a motion to approve. Mr. Barber did that. We have a second by Mr. San. Further discussion. We do have some further discussion, so Superintendent Schlueter, if you wouldn't mind coming up here. And then we'll go Alderwoman Eichman, then Alderman Piccarelli. Good evening and welcome, sir.
Thank you. Kevin, would you mind explaining exactly what a shouldering machine is for those of us that may not be familiar?
It's an attachment that goes on either our front end loader or a skid steer, and we dump stone or millings into it, and it spreads it to whatever width we desire on the edge of the road. And we use it both for existing roads and new construction. And where this came in was this year with new construction. Normally we rent them because they are expensive, and they no longer want to rent them because no one's buying them now. So they said no more rentals, you either buy it or you go without. So I asked the Payne and Dolan, who's our contractor this year, if they could shoulder for us, and they wanted $60,000. So I thought 60 or 61, I might as well buy it, and then I can use it on all our existing streets also.
Thank you.
Alderman Piccarelli?
That was going to be my question, so, thank you.
You, all right, Alderwoman Day?
Just a follow-up to that was, do we have then, do we have the ability to service that machine in-house, or would that be something that we don't have the ability to look at, and we would have to, outsource it for maintenance needs?
We can do it in-house, and just FYI, we had one years ago, and it aged out, it just fell apart on us, so we're used to them, we use them all the time, we used to.
Okay, great.
And so we're used to them, yeah.
Great, thank you.
Seeing no further discussion, this is a roll call vote. We had a first and a second.
Alderman Craig.
Aye.
Alderman Barber.
Aye.
Alderwoman Day.
Aye.
Alderman Hassan.
Aye.
Alderwoman Eichman.
Aye.
Alderman Peccarelli.
Aye.
6 ayes, no noes, motion carries. Thank you very much. We are now going on to G6. Kevin, make sure you give me that information on the streets for tomorrow.
Yeah.
Thank you. G6, an ordinance to amend ordinance 2023-2569, ordinance adopting the 2024 annual budget for the Capital Improvement Fund to provide additional $8,000 in appropriations and recess for the school traffic signal project.
moved.
Madam, we have a first.
Second.
We have a first and a second. Further discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Alderman Peccarelli.
Aye.
Alderwoman Eichman.
Aye.
Alderman Hassan.
Aye.
Alderwoman Day.
No.
Alderman Barber.
Aye.
Alderman Craig.
Aye.
5 ayes, 1 no, motion carries. G7, acceptance of the 2023 annual comprehensive financial report for the city of Franklin. Madam Director of Finance, good evening.
Hello, good evening. So back on July 31st, the city submitted the annual comprehensive financial report by state statute. Back on September 24th, the Finance Committee heard the report from our auditors, Clifton Larson Allen. It was brief, but I would just go over a couple of the results. We did not apply for the GFOA audit award this year due to timing issues. It has been accepted and awarded in the past, and I anticipate doing it for the 2024 audit. We have the new company, ClearGov, that will be assisting us in our budgeting and auditing for 2025. And so they will help use their new program for the GFOA award, which will make it a lot easier for the finance department to achieve. Overall, the city's in a good financial position. Our total government funds is roughly $48 million, which is exceeds last year at $40 million. There was no sensitive disclosures from the auditors. There was no significant unusual transactions. There was 4 material corrected misstatements, which we had corrected and issued, and then there was no disagreements with management. There was only 2 recommendations from the auditors, which are being covered by the new scope of work that was approved last month, and that was to help minimize the number of audit adjustments. And so they're going to help the finance team work through those for the 2024 audit. And then also the timely reconciliations. I know that was brought up in the past that reconciliations had been lacking since 2021. And so we want to make sure that those are up to date. And again, CLA is helping with that. Lastly, right now they are finishing and finalizing the single audit, which is for the federal and state grant funding that we receive. We are required to file that on an annual basis if we receive over $750,000 in funding due to the ARPA funds and the expenditures that we did in 2023. We do have to file that single audit. So they are finishing that, and that should be finalized in October. And then that was all I had. If you guys had any questions, I hope you guys took some time to review it. I just did want to state last year, this might look a little different from last year because last year all the schedules and tables that would have given us the award were not included. But I did take some time over the last couple of months to get all those up to date because they hadn't been updated since 2021. So I wanted to make sure that those were in here, which is why it's being presented a little later than usual.
I'll make the motion to accept and place on file.
First and a second, any further discussion? Okay, this is simply motion accepted was a file. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. Moving forward, thank you, Madam Director, it's a lot of work. G8,
Probably have all the rest of them too.
exactly, a resolution approving a partial property tax recession and refund for parcel tax key number 841-0155-000. Madam Director of Finance.
Again, this is a property tax refund. As the assessors were going through the assessment process, they determined that there was a property that was fully assessed in 2023, and then based on their information that they received from the inspections office, it was determined that the basement was only around 20% complete. So we're looking to correct that and give them the $388 in a refund.
Motion to approve.
First and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. Item G9. An ordinance to amend ordinance 2023-2569. An ordinance adopting the 2024 annual budget for the general fund to provide additional $340,000 in appropriations for assessor contractual services. Madam Director of Finance.
So as you remember, back at the beginning of the year, we authorized the contract with Forward Appraisal. In that, we knew that the first year pricing was going to be extremely high due to the amount of cleanup and additional work that they had to do. So we will have to use fund balance to accompany that, but then it will drop back down to roughly $210,000 for the next 2 years.
Alderwoman Eichmann.
Thank you, Mayor. With this excess dollar amount, are we going to try to recoup these fees that are needed for the extra work done in the first year from the prior assessor? I just don't want to see the taxpayers have to foot the bill for
If you want to speak to that.
that.
Madam Director of Administration, if you'd like to comment on that. If not, we'll wait, because I would like to comment on that. If you-
So the last time we had spoken about this, the council had made the decision to send a demand letter. We spent a couple of months going back and forth with the information that we had requested. And at this stage, it's an item that has to be brought back to council to determine if you want to move ahead to attempt to recoup expenses.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, was there a motion on this?
No.
Okay, we need a motion, please.
Motion to approve.
Second that.
First and a second, this will be a roll call vote.
Alderman Craig.
Aye.
Alderman Barber.
Aye.
Alderwoman Day.
Aye.
Alderman Hassan.
Aye.
Alderwoman Eichmann.
Aye.
Alderman Peccarelli.
Aye.
6 ayes, no noes, motion carries. G10. Approval of pay application 1 and change order 1 for the 2024 PPII sump pump project MMSD funding agreement M10005FR01.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We've got a first and a second. Any further discussion?
I just wanted to state that this has already been approved as far as the funding agreement, so all of this is 100% paid for by MMSD.
That's a huge thing. Thank you for just mentioning that. We have first and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Motion carries. G11. An ordinance to amend ordinance 2023-2569. An ordinance adopting the 2024 annual budget for the Capital Improvement Fund to provide additional $445,550 in appropriations for the WISDOT project on South Lovers Lane from West Rawson Avenue to West College Avenue. Madam Director of Finance.
So this was a DOT project that was approved back in 2021 with the anticipation of design taking place in 2024 and construction in 2025. However, the DOT had the ability to move forward with construction in 2024, so we had to put the funds in the 2024 budget now to accommodate that.
Thank you very much. Any further discussion? Seeing
Motion
none.
to approve.
Second.
We've got a first by Mr. Barber, second by Alderwoman Day. This is a roll call vote.
Alderman Pecorelli.
Aye.
Alderwoman Eichman.
Aye.
Alderman Hassan.
Aye.
Alderwoman Day.
Aye.
Alderman Barber.
Aye.
Alderman Craig.
Aye.
6 ayes, no nos, motion carries. G12, Engineering Department, October 24 update. Madam Director of Administration.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to bring a somewhat informal update on what's been occurring in the engineering department. So I kind of made some notes. We have the DPW expansion occurring, and currently that is in construction phase. We are looking at to finalize this project in roughly the spring of 2025. Some of the known challenges that we are facing is insufficient contingency funds. For example, $7,000 of contingency funds were accounted for a $3 million project. Ideally, we would want to have 10% at a minimum. So we are going to be we're going to be tasked with trying to find that contingency fund. Additionally, the DPW staff was tasked for various labor pieces of the project, kind of unbeknownst to them, and that would be creating a berm, grading, and retention, and creating a retention pond, all of which require equipment and potentially skills that the DPW does not necessarily have, in addition to their overburdening workload. So we're going to have to also look for potentially bringing somebody in for that piece of it. And then we also have we have currently had no oversight on this project from a contractor. And I know that the superintendent of DPW was following up with the contractor to ensure that they were actually meeting their proposed oversight that they would be providing. And obviously that's to ensure that the city's best interest is always kept in mind and to deal with any kind of unknown occurrences that could come up during construction. The final piece of this piece of the DPW expansion is that there's 2 phases to the project as a whole, and the construction portion should actually be the second phase, but it's being worked on as the first. So that leads me to the DPW campus utilities, which we are in the process of getting bids for running the utilities down South 80th Street, which is what should have been the primary path for utilities. However, there were a couple of alternate bids. One of them was unfeasible. It's an unfeasible route, and there were multiple challenges. That piece of it was bid out and contract was awarded. So we are pushing Foth, who is the consultant, to design for the appropriate route, which is again South 80th Street. And we are looking at roughly the same time frame if we really push construction and the project as a whole, because they have to bid it out, we have to award it, and then run construction. So we're hoping that we can coincide the construction on both the building expansion and the campus utilities. That's kind of
And I was just going to state that the reason that there's a push for the utilities piece is because that utilities piece is using ARPA funding.
Yes.
And we have to have a contract awarded by December 31st of 2024 in order to be able to use that funding for this project, which is roughly $1 million. So we've been really pushing to make sure that that phase gets done at the same time as the construction of the expansion building.
Exactly. And what I wanted to say is that you all can expect to see this coming forward under future council action items. Another item is the MMSD PPII sump pump program. I am happy to report that this is going really well. We have, I would say, fantastic partners on this from our consulting firm, our engineering consulting firm, who are there on site and provide weekly updates at a on-site meeting that I've been at several times. And I would also say that you can expect to see future council action items on this. One of the things that we would like to do is finish the add-on to the design agreement for another portion of it. And then there is the mobile park study and recommendation are expected. We'd like to, that would require new funding agreement with MMSD. I think it's important to stress that these projects with MMSD, the funding is provided by MMSD. So essentially what we do and what you had approved on item, I think it was 10, is we pay the contractor, we pay for the services, and then we will submit through MMSD's system a request for reimbursement. I do want to say that the MMSD representative for this project in particular has been phenomenal and has really helped me out to become quickly acquainted with everything, and spent several hours in my office getting me connected with various MMSD program managers just to ensure that the city is where it needs to be. We're not missing any deadlines, and I'm happy to report we are not. So this is a very successful program. Water Tower Park, we have 3 contracts under this one, contract A, B, and C, and we are currently in status on contract C. And we had a pre-con meeting on 9/17 with the consultant and also the construction company, at which time we discussed that we have special assessments that we had considered in the funding of this project. However, and also I want to point out that this was approved by all of you to move forward with that. However, we have not held a public hearing, which is required. I am uncertain of what the financial impact would be of the roughly 39 parcels that this project impacts. So we would obviously look to bring this back in a public hearing and move forward with the special assessments. Did you want to ask something?
Oh, you can finish.
Okay.
We had several
Alderman
meetings.
Eichmann, you've got the floor.
Thanks, Kelly. Give it to me. We had several meetings on Water Tower Park. We didn't have a public hearing on that?
Not for the
Not for
special
the special
assessments. No, it was supposed to be brought back
For the
in
special
August.
assessment part of it? Okay.
Correct.
Thank you for that clarification.
Yep. Yeah. So obviously we're going to still move that forward, but just an FYI. So you'll see a lot on this over the coming months. We are trying to finalize an agreement with the Tri-County Baptist Church for access, which everything was in place. We just need to.
That had council approval to be finalized.
Correct.
Right? Okay.
Yep. Yep. So it's just pushing it forward and making payments. We are looking at a projected final on this project, this overall project, at the end of 2025. There were properties that were surveyed who had expressed interest. However, during the course of that time and now, it has been determined that we're unable to allow them to connect. So, as I said, there are 3 portions of this contract. 2 are already done, and contract C was quoted with 0 consideration to having any of the people connecting. So that's another piece of that. This project does use ARPA funds, and that was an expectation when this was approved by the council. So we do have a deadline of by the end of this year. And with the special assessments, there is obviously a direct impact that we need to make sure that we are getting those hearings in as soon as possible. Let me just see if I have everything on here on that one. Yes. All right. Putes Pathway, we have been awarded a TAP grant from WISTOT, I believe it is. And Mary Beth Pettit with Grafe this is kind of her wheelhouse. So she will be running with this project. At this point, we're going to be quoting, looking for bids. There's a specific process that has to be followed because it is a TAP grant. And she will be running that end. We will have bids, and those bids are to provide surveys of which side of the street would be the recommended path for the pathway. And so that will be coming shortly. Construction bidding is planned for 2025. Loomis Pathway, much like Putes Pathway, it's focused to create safe access for pedestrians, cyclists. This project is relatively complete on Loomis throughout Franklin. Some known challenges, it's similar to the Water Tower Park in that special assessments are required and a public hearing is required. The final impact of the unassessed parcels is estimated to be $250,000 if they are not specially assessed. Cascade Trail. So this one is in the, when I kind of jumped in on this and I had spoken with the consultants at ISG, we don't have a intergovernmental agreement with either party. This project would require working with the city of Milwaukee and also Milwaukee County. And there's a number of impacts that it would have on the community. In particular, there would be a service agreement that both the city and the county would require, and we don't have the manpower to provide the service from DPW. So what I propose looking for different options that is within our city and on our city land to create that connectivity for Oakleaf Trail and make our community more walkable. So I hope to bring that forward over the next several months. And that actually, one of my ideas kind of coincides with another one of those MMSD funded projects. So I'm a little excited about that. But I don't have anything to share at this time except that the Cascade Trail was not included in the 2025 mayor's recommended budget. And I don't see that moving forward as it is today. The engineering candidates, we've had a couple of interviews and we still have the post out there, still looking. We have a number, we essentially have a panel of people conducting the interviews and asking questions, making sure it's a good fit. And in the meantime, we obviously will continue with Mike Paulus with Grafe and his team, who has really just jumped in and been a true asset to all of us here. The WISDOT projects, they're slowly moving, but they are moving forward. There is progress, which is always good. I have Lions Legend Pickleball. The actual courts should be done, and we should also be seeing the end of this project shortly. They're going to be doing some planting and some, I want to say there was a portion of the sidewalk that requires replacement due to just construction impacts. Then, sorry, it's a lot, I know. One of the things that we've been looking at in particular, Director Brown and I have been looking at is to identify billing practices for projects that require more robust procedures, specifically all bids, requiring them to be fully documented with records being maintained to ensure transparency and compliance with city regulations. Next steps, we will be working to implement a standardized administrative procedure for documenting all bids, ensuring a clear audit trail for all contracted work. This policy would be enforced for all future projects to avoid any inconsistencies. Plan Commission meetings. We have had Mike Paulus with Grave requested to jump in on 2 Plan Commission items, and they've jumped in, and my understanding is they're slated to come back to Plan Commission to report on that this month. The 116th Street Trail, that project is out to bid, and that one also is being navigated by Mary Beth Pettit with Grafe. And again, she's a subject matter expert in this area, so we're really in good hands. We did have some issues in that because it's railroad ties, there was some arsenic that was found. So this is also, as a reminder, land that we are leasing for, I guess, yeah, it's leasing from We Energies. So whether or not we move forward with the trail, we will have to cap that arsenic. And Mary believes that we should be looking good with the bids on what we had expected despite these delays. So excited to see how that comes out. We are working with the city of Milwaukee and their consultant for communication shelter at our Putes Water Tower. This is something that currently exists. However, we are looking at various areas that in that area where the water tower is to house their communication shelter, I guess. It's basically emergency services for multi-intergovernmental groups. So City of Milwaukee, I'm sure the county, I believe other municipalities in this local area, they have that messaging system, communication system at that water tower area. So we're just working with them to keep this moving forward, and I will be working with the planning manager to ensure that they are getting what they need. We are also working to develop a more inclusive process with our electeds and focus on transparency for our community regarding our projects. Ideally, this would include elected officials being invited to pre-con meetings or pre-construction meetings and providing status updates on a regular basis, even if it comes down to a few sentences, just so that way everybody is clear where each project stands. In addition, if we end up moving forward with ClearGov and that program, I would like to implement the, well, part of what would be is the ability to have projects on our website, and it would be pages that are specific to each project, so you could see a synopsis of it, where we're at, both timeline and also financial within the budget, and all of those fun details that we currently don't have, but I think are important. We're also entertaining the idea of a fee schedule for the near future, which would assist in recouping some of our expenses for services in the engineering department. And we have weekly meetings with Mike and his staff with Grafe, as well as the full engineering department, members of DPW, and also members of Sewer and Water, to ensure that everybody is on the same page and communication is open and continuous. We are also looking at, there have been a couple of items that have come up where We want to ensure applications that don't move to a developer's agreement level have language on them to ensure that the city will in fact get payment. And then we also have some discrepancies in some of our permits that do not comply with our ordinances. So we're going to have to be looking into that to ensure that we fix those things as well. I think that's it for now.
Questions, comments? We've got a plethora, so we'll start with Alderman Barber, then Alderwoman Day.
I hope all this work is part of your master's in engineering administration degree that you're going for somewhere.
Well, thankfully, we have Mike and his team, and we have a full department downstairs. So, yeah, they help me a lot.
Speaking to what you've just presented, I hope that the Cascade Creek is not going to go away. I've been working on that probably since day one, and that was start 9 years ago. I know in the past, some monies have been set aside for engineering. Has any of that been spent, or are you aware of any engineering?
Yeah.
That's been done side to a certain point?
I actually had received an invoice earlier today from ISG, which is the engineering firm that was consulted to do the design. And so, yes, there has been money spent on that. I can't really speak to how much is left, though.
We had a budget of 110,000 for engineering, and the contract is for 75,000.
Okay.
So-
I do hope that stays open and maybe, I understand the problems you have in getting this implemented with the city and the county, primarily the county in the past, and now working with the city and the county as we move forward with it. But my hope is that it doesn't go away, and I'll kind of be here to kind of see that on occasion.
I know I didn't want to deliver that to you, that message, because I know that I know where you stand with that. Some of the issues, though, is that the trail to accommodate the city and the county and the way that they would like it to come out, as well as dealing with our natural wetlands, it appears to be almost double the length of what was originally proposed. Yeah, and then we also have, I believe I want to say it was a 20-foot pathway. And of course, we're right next door to a tree farm. And then also there's obviously mature trees that we would have to look at the impact and also follow the fence that exists over there and just the impact of all of that. And then also the replacement of those trees if we were to impact them. And my understanding is when you are looking at that space, the trees, I believe that it's like it's not equal to one. It's not 1 to 1, but it's greater than that. So it could be substantial. I think the biggest part is the DPW piece of it and the maintenance, and that certainly has been expressed to me by the superintendent of DPW that we currently don't have enough people to do all of the maintenance around the city, and additional projects without considering that end of things is a very frightening prospect for the superintendent.
It'll always be there for me.
Yeah. I know.
Thank you. I yield.
You're welcome.
Alderwoman Day, then Alderwoman Eichman.
Thank you. The bulk of my questions, I'll defer, I think, on my other ones, as I believe Alderwoman Eichman is going to touch on some of the things that are more in her district. But for the DPW project, so I know this predates my time on council, but I will say a good chunk of the Plan Commission meetings for the first year or so of being on council involved this project. And it has hit its fair amount of speed bumps along the way, whether it was scope or funding or, the consultant that was working on it and whatnot. And it came to Plan Commission several times. And so I guess I have a couple of questions on this, and I don't really know, if there is an answer, because, the horse is so far out of the barn. But when it comes to the utility plan, or the plan for the utilities, I remember having the discussions about both scenarios, whether it be, 80th Street or the other plan that went in a completely different direction. And I'm not an engineer by any stretch, but I do, kind of rely on all the people in the room, on the commission that have greater knowledge in that field, as well as the consultant that was here discussing it. So when you say that the plan that they made is not feasible, I guess two questions are, number one, why? And number two, how was that not caught that it wasn't feasible at the time by anybody that was talking about it?
Yeah, so I can say that we had a meeting with Foth, who's the engineering consultant on the plan. We had that, I don't know, a couple of weeks ago. And what we found out is that that alternate path that was awarded and, moved forward with everything versus the primary, what should have been the primary path, there was messaging, according to Foth, that was provided to the engineering department prior to August that there's a couple of problems with that path. First of all, we would be going behind people's properties. So ultimately, we would be at their mercy for access to our utility lines should we require that. The greater problem, though, is that due to gravity, we would require I believe they call it a lift pump or grinder station at every single parcel along the way in order to make it work. And that is estimated at roughly 10 to 20 grand per parcel. So it didn't make any sense. We did run a feasibility test at that stage we had requested them to run a feasibility and an impact analysis review on South 76th Street, which would have made more sense. So South 80th and South 76th. And it is feasible. However, at this stage, we're just trying to get ahead of this and get on track for the actual project. And right now, like I said, we're looking at like a spring of 2025 at the earliest, and we didn't have funds built in that should have been built in. So I hope that answers your questions.
And then-
As to like where this went and how, I don't know. I think communication broke down at one point. And I do know that there were several unanswered consultants for several months. And I believe that they're one of them, that they had provided this information but did not get a response back.
And then a little bit like the water tower project, I think there were a few parcels along the way that were planning to connect.
Yes.
And now that it's probably not going to be a possibility for them, at least not in this capacity. So has any communication gone out to them that this is no longer happening at all?
No, not
Okay.
yet. No.
And then my last question on the DPW project centers around, again, this just goes back to, I think, the communication piece. And I'm definitely not trying to point fingers or throw anybody under the bus. It's just sort of just an observation that it was stated at multiple meetings that a cost-saving measure would be to utilize as much in-house services as possible, and it was multiple meetings. So I feel like if that was not something that could have been accomplished, it's not a secret. So I'm not sure why that also wasn't brought forward at the time, because like I said, it was talked about at multiple meetings that this was how we were going to save money on this project. So again, it seems like there was a lot of, cross communication or communication that wasn't happening. And maybe now that, that DPW is more intrinsically involved in some of these plans going forward and projects, maybe that won't get missed. I'm not sure, but it just seems
I'm hopeful.
like
Yeah.
a big thing got missed.
I don't think the lines of communication were as open as they need to be for having all shareholders, all impacted parties at all meetings. And At least that's my understanding. You know, I'm coming into this kind of at this late stage as well. I mean, obviously I've been here and I've heard of all of these projects, but not at this level and detail and knowledge of everything that's occurring.
And then would this go back to plan then because it's changing again, or is it gonna just come back to council?
Yeah, I would think it would come back to council because the South 80th was, in my understanding, was supposed to be regardless. So it was kind of surprising that it had not been bid out and awarded contract, but the alternate route was. I don't know why that route was bid out and awarded contract when the feasibility had not been present. Sure. And in terms of the special assessments, I'm not necessarily sure. I know South 80th Street would still impact Zerns, and they're still interested. And then I believe part of the school district, but I'm not certain. Okay. So in terms of that, there is that. But running the other line, from what I can tell, what I'm surmising from the plans is that the original plan was to build a cold storage building. And it looks like that alternate route for utilities was actually intended to go to that building. And then when those plans changed, the utility route did not change. That's what it looks like to me.
Okay, thank you, appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Alderwoman Eichmann.
Thank you. Several things. First of all, Kelly, I wanted to thank you for putting this all together, especially amongst a very busy time of the year for you. So thank you for the update. I've got several things. But with that being said, just so we're all on the same page, you are still overseeing the engineering department, correct? On top of one of the many hats you're wearing?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, yep.
Okay, just wanted to make sure that everyone is aware of that in case someone wasn't. I was going to mention that possibly we could get together and have a meeting so I could bring you up to speed of the several meetings I sat in with my constituents with the Water Tower Park. That was a big heated topic before we brought you on to the city.
Right.
Many of the meetings consisted of myself, the city engineer, the assistant city engineer, and my constituents. So being that, of course, the city engineer and the assistant city engineer are no longer with us, I can share with you some of the information that was discussed and go back and find some of my many notes that I took during a good portion of meetings. A huge thing that I'm just a little bit shocked and almost speechless in hearing when Alderwoman Day asked this, that first my constituents, who I represent, that I look out for, on South 100th Street, where this water tower is being built, were told they had to connect to the water. Huge, huge topic. There was somebody dressed in a Grinch suit protesting. I mean, it was huge. Then, after several meetings, it was determined that they would run, and again, I'm not a city engineer. I don't pretend to be one, like I always say, so please excuse me if my terminology is wrong, but something about a T-connector so they could connect. And now you're saying they can't connect at all to a water tower that abuts their property and is across the street from their property, that none of those houses can now connect at all after all of this?
They can connect. It would be extremely expensive.
The costs were given in a former council meeting. Yes, they were. They were
No,
given.
I'm not saying that they weren't. I'm saying they're likely not accurate. The work for contracts A and B have been completed. So we would have to, it's different when you have a contractor out there doing the work and then you have a known connection that you are running versus going back and digging up and creating a connection. And that would be 100% their expense.
I'm happy to go back and find the past council meetings under past administration of the fees that were given. And I understand that can be an approximate, things can change, economy and so forth. But I mean, that just can't be. Here we're building a water tower on the Baptist church property, but yet they can't connect to it. And then it's considered an eyesore from the other neighbors in the area. And now they can't even connect to this water tower that's literally being built right there. They have no option to connect. we're gonna definitely need to host. I can feel my phone blowing up right now as we're
Right.
talking from residents in that area. And this comes as a huge, huge surprise and disappointment,
Yeah.
major. So I'm gonna ask that, I'll be calling a meeting with my constituents once again from that neighboring area. I'm gonna have very many disappointed residents. It's very unfortunate. It's,
Yeah, there were,
with that, I'll
my,
give you-
my understanding is there were months of missed communication and opportunities where this could have been brought forward. I know that the consultant, Will Hine with Applied Technologies, had radio silence from our end for 3 months.
Surveys went out, letters went out, meetings were held. That was discussed in council numerous times. So I just don't
And
understand.
the contractor-
To break this news to these residents.
The contractor never got that information from the city that they should incorporate certain homes that were interested and what have you into their project.
It was given to my constituents in that area in a formal handout of what this cost would be. And a document to these residents of what it would be.
Well, I'd like to chime in on this.
Please.
And I think, okay, so we can look back and try to, I understand, point the finger, and there is a big, big, big problem here with how we got here today. And to your point, and what I agree with, is now where do we go? How do we fix this? And how do we make this right for the people that live there? And how do we, there's the accountability prior is not going to be anything moving forward that we can hang our hat on. So we as a city have to figure out, in my opinion, how to fix this for the residents in that area. And I think what to start with is we get with Mike Paulos with Grafe here first downstairs with you, and perhaps we'll do a bat key and anyone else that wants to, get in on this. And then we can try to figure out a plan moving forward in which to communicate with the constituents about what we have going on and what the solutions are moving forward. Then we move forward with we can have a community meeting on this with them and get them in there and let them know how this is going to get fixed. And I understand we can discuss the pathway, how we got here, but moving forward, we've got to have a fix. So, and I'm very confident with Grafe that they will come up with something that can make this work.
Yeah, I do want to say that this did come up in the pre-con, and it was highly recommended. So there was 2 homes in, I think, Contract A area that was potentially interested. One was a maybe. And I think there was like 3 in Contract C. They have not been taken into consideration with any of the work. So in speaking with Mike about this, he had recommended that we have the project as it is. I mean, 2/3 of the project is done. And the reality is, if we were to move forward and have the contractor connect these 2 or 3 homes per section to the water main that we are running out there, it would be 100% cost to them. It's not just the special assessment anymore, because the contractors are gone. And I believe that at a certain point, whatever is not covered by a special assessment, and you can answer this for me and correct me if I'm wrong, ends up becoming the city's part. And I can tell you from finance committee meetings and the mayor's recommended budget and looking at what we have, our needs far outweigh our budget.
Right, so before we go into Alderwoman Eichman and Alderwoman Day, I just think, I understand, because we could sit here and go for hours on this topic. I think the smart thing to do is get with Grafe, get downstairs, get a meeting, and look for solutions, then we'll bring it back. Alderwoman Eichman. and
Thank you.
Alderwoman
Mayor,
Day.
I'd appreciate that meeting ASAP. I'm available Friday. Just throwing that out there now, in case. Now, I'm not saying it has to be this Friday, but with I have a busy schedule, so it saves you a phone call of asking me when. Originally, the pipes, and again, I am not a specialty person in this area, and I'm just a little speechless to finding this out right now, too. The pipes were to all be run through with, again, the T connector. If they wanted to connect, of course, that was on the homeowner. With the deferred plan of what do we normally run, Mayor, in the past, has it been like a 10-year plan?
It was going to be an indefinite deferment.
It was
There's
indefinite in this case.
There's properties there that were looking forward to the increased home value. Always Apple Orchard was mentioned in that. I mean, I'm looking forward to this
But,
meeting, and then
right.
hopefully we'll have more clarity.
If you're okay with it, why don't we hold off on that until we get the meeting with Grafe to get some real answers?
And
For
I
now.
would recommend Will Hine with Applied Technologies too. He's been involved in this from the beginning, and I think he would be able to walk us through all our options and how we got here today.
Okay, do you yield?
Yeah, it's best I do
Okay,
it now.
Alderwoman Day.
Yeah, just two very quick things. And I forgot when I was talking before, Kelly, thank you also. That was very comprehensive. I've had a few days to digest some of it because you kind of gave me the preview a few days ago. But yes, thank you for all of that because that does, put things in better perspective. And then I just want to turn to Danielle quickly because two of these are ARPA and the TikTok, we're in October now. Can we still get what we need to get done with those funds?
So we have to have a contract awarded by the end of the year. We don't have to spend the funds until 2026. That being said, the one project, which is the water tower contract C, has already been awarded. So that one we're perfectly fine with. It's this utilities project with DPW. However, I did sit with Kelly, DPW, Kevin, and then Mike with Grafe last week, and it seems that there's no concern about getting a contract awarded for the utilities project. So they are aware, and like I said, I think FOTH is aware that we're using ARPA funds and that there shouldn't be a concern with getting a contract awarded for that.
And if I didn't make this clear, and I'm not sure if I did now in hindsight, the Loomis pathway requires special assessment for the sidewalk in front of those properties, and that was the 250,000 that, so we are going to have to, and I'm looking at the clerk here, we're going to have to put those public hearing notices out and get those out as soon as possible, so that way we can push forward with the special assessments that had already been approved by the body in the past.
Thank you. Alderman Craig.
Two kind of out of left field sort of questions then. With leading up to everything with the water tower, there was a lot of change orders and a lot of, needing to kind of tighten things up. Are we on a better pathway as far as timelines go and spending, or is it still, there's a lot of hemorrhaging and there's still a lot of maintenance that needs to be done to get us to that proper point?
My understanding is that we were pretty much on target of what Will at Applied Technologies had expected, at least for this contract. I can say that I do have some invoices that I'm going to have to bring forward for payment as well. So some of these items are, again, you can expect to see this brought forward to near future councils for action for approval and payment of services that we've already approved and services that we're already incurring.
And I can just say, I believe the contract A and B of water tower project, like Kelly said, they're essentially complete. However, I think there's one outstanding change order that will be brought forward. But it's still within the total budget of the project. And then the use of ARPA funds that was presented back in March for contract C actually came in, it was like $250,000 or $300,000 under what was anticipated. So there's still some wiggle room there, but that's just starting the construction of that, so.
Okay. My final question then is, when we got the presentation for the contract with Grafe, there was a breakdown as far as the fee structure goes, as far as who would be handling, well, not exactly who, but by title. Do you feel confident that we are not overpaying for work from someone that's far more advanced of their title and thus their fee schedule? Are we like in line with, the right people doing the right job at the right cost?
Yeah, I mean, I think we are. I know that Mike has his, I guess for lack of a better word, right-hand woman on a lot of projects and also just our team meetings and on maintaining our status on all of the projects and making sure that we are moving forward with all of them appropriately.
Great.
And I will just say that when we do meet with Mike, he does make us feel secure as far as not overusing the budget, that he does pass things off as he sees fit. So it's not just him doing all of this at the extremely high rate. He is passing it on to other people that are helping.
I did want to point out something too that had come up internally in conversations that I think is an appropriate time to mention, and that is we have various contracts with various engineering firms to do design work. And, if you take these contracts, we are essentially looking at if we're having Grafe work as our city engineer and help us through all of this, we wouldn't be contracting out to all of these engineering firms. We would keep it in-house, so to speak. And therefore, all the contracted amounts that we have out there. For example, we have with MMSD PPI project, we have a $250,000 contract with Clark Dietz, and that's an engineering firm. So it would kind of be, the expectation would be that it would be at a minimum a wash, if not a savings. The question comes into, do you want us to put together an RFP for services, or do you want us to provide the services? Put an RFP together for services that we can provide seems a little ridiculous, right? So it's like extra work for the same end result.
Okay. Alderwoman Eichman.
Thanks. One more just quick thing, kind of piggybacking off of what Alderman Craig just asked. I had asked for a project update and financial status of where we were at with Grafe. Will Mike Paulos, and then that was mentioned it was going to be brought after the budget was approved. So will Mike Paulos still be presenting that to us? And I think we had said December, or is this in place of this evening?
No, this is just me trying to keep you all abreast of all the projects and where we're at, just to provide a status update. Like I said, I thought that this would be best for everybody to kind of have an understanding of where we're at, which is why I'm providing a unofficial report of status.
Thank you.
Alderman Picarelli.
So back to the DPW, the expansion of the utilities. I think you mentioned at some point that oversight or governance wasn't necessarily in place. Can you walk through what it's supposed to be and now how it's operating?
Yeah, so each project you're required to have somebody there on site to ensure that the city's best interests are being met, right? And whether it's like a foreman or what have you, there would be somebody there ensuring that everything is going according to plan. It was brought to my attention recently that there was nobody at the DPW construction site that was representing the city, except for the superintendent who's trying his best, but he can't be at the job site all day long. My understanding is there's testing that has to be done when concrete is poured and various other testing that, again, I'm not trying to pretend that I'm an engineer either. I'm just trying to have a handle on everything that is happening so I can provide that information to all of you. But that was not occurring, and the firm that was selected, that was part of their proposal. So last check-in, the superintendent was going to be reaching out to that contractor to ensure that they are in fact meeting that requirement.
There'll be action if
Yes, there will be action if not. And if we need to, we're going to have to potentially hire somebody else to do that oversight. I know that as a trying to get ahead of things. There is an architect at Grafe that his name's Wayne, and he was brought in on this to, at a minimum, review the plans and ensure that he didn't see any red flags. So we can try to get ahead of all of that and address those before we're in deep on those. And I wanted to mention too, there was an update as of yesterday afternoon with the DPW campus utilities. The sewer design, if we kept it as is and hoped that we would, the Ryan Road sewer would be available for the potential fire station 4, we have to make the decision on whether or not we want to deepen the DPW sewer now to serve future fire station at an additional cost of $35,000 to $50,000, or to do what's needed and end it there, which I think we all probably know that at a later date, it'll probably be significantly more. So Mike's recommendation was to extend it so we could catch a possible fire station 4. And again, this will also have to come before all of you for approval. But that's something that FOTH is requesting a decision on or direction on as soon as possible.
Okay, thank you, Kelly, and everyone's exceptional questions. We know the direction is to get a meeting scheduled with those players, and then we'll get that back to us electeds, and we'll do a bad key on it, because everybody that, has got questions needs to be in that meeting, because this is a very, very unfortunate and very hot topic. Thank you. No action taken. Moving on, G13. An ordinance to amend an ordinance 2023-2569, an ordinance adopting the 2020 annual budget for the general fund to provide additional $22,500 appropriations for the elections department.
So move.
Second.
First and a second. Any further discussion? Alderman Eichmann?
So the money was there, it just, we're all human, it just wasn't accounted for in the budget, right? For the
No.
presidential election?
No, so when the budget was approved last year, the budget was only approved to fund 2 elections. And so it was brought forward that we have 4 elections this year and we need additional funding to provide for those. So we're just going to use some contingency money to make sure that Shirley has everything she needs for the rest of the year.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
Okay, any further discussion? Is there a motion?
Yes.
First and second.
We got a first and second. Roll call, please.
Alderman Craig.
Aye.
Alderman Barber.
Aye.
Alderwoman Day.
Aye.
Alderman Hassan.
Aye.
Alderwoman Eichman.
Aye.
Alderman Picarelli.
Aye.
6 ayes, no noes, motion carries. G14, an ordinance to amend 158-8C of the municipal code to allow for the sale by Class B license holders of intoxicating liquor for off-premise consumption. This has been brought back. We've got some clarification on this. And if we could, Madam Clerk, give a few examples of how this currently is within the city that we talked about, or I can just go with it. Okay, I'll go with it. So, number one, before we go into this, I see Alderman Eichman, I understand you've got your hand up.
Didn't know if
So,
you saw me.
one of the things is, currently, if this was at Pick and Save, you could be at Pick and Save. What's going on? You're taking my thunder, what?
No, I was just press this button. Planning.
I was ready if I got called on.
Okay, so that's a good lead-in, because I am going to be asking the city attorney to confirm or at least agree with me what I'm giving these examples. So if you were at Pick and Save and you bought a bottle to go from Pick and Save, same scenario. If you were at, to quote the Madam Clerk, a beer or liquor depot, which some are, that's a terminology south of Milwaukee County, depot, then you have that, and you would have that exact same option. You would buy something from that facility, and you would go. I met with the Volition people, and when it was explained to them, they understood it, that this is nothing new. We're not adding, there's no risk to society. This is in accordance with many other businesses in the city of Franklin, many other businesses in the surrounding communities. This is just something that we want to change to make sure that they can do this legally. Mr. City Attorney, anything to add or dispute with what I just said?
No.
Good answer. All right.
And short version, what the current redraft does is exactly what is in the statutes and allowed. And I asked the clerk to have it reviewed by the expert Department of Revenue alcohol licensing review person in the Milwaukee area. And that was done. And one of my points was, here's a separate statute that allows for the carryout of fermented malt beverages, beer. And it doesn't have that technical in a sealed cap container, etc., in that separate statute. So I said, in this amendment, it's only for the intoxicating liquor carryout. And the response from the Department of Revenue person, after that was sent to her, states the statute already includes fermented malt beverage in it, so it does not need to be written into the amendment. And with regard to the amendment that's before the council now, she said that looks good to go.
All right, Alderwoman Eichman, then Alderwoman Day.
I first wanted to just once again thank you all, Mayor, City Attorney, anyone else who was involved, Shirley and so forth, for getting more information gathered for us and so we could learn more about this topic. I just wanted to throw it out there. I unfortunately know of at least a couple of restaurants, without saying the names of them, that are really struggling right now in this economy to keep their doors open. And look at the prices of groceries. And we all know what happens in an economy like this. When the prices of groceries go up, people eat out less. Families can't afford to go out to eat like they used to. So if this is something that we can do to help keep some of the doors open of some of the restaurants in Franklin right now that are struggling, by allowing this one simple change, and has my support. I just wanted to add that. And I've talked personally to the restaurants that are struggling about this, and they feel it would help increase their sales and that they can possibly keep their doors open at least for a little bit longer. So I'm all for that versus closing more business in Franklin. With that, I yield. Thank you.
Alderwoman Day.
My questions are just on the implementation of this. Is it going to be case by case? So say,
Literally.
okay, and then as case by case, then is there an additional fee or a different looking license, or what does it look like for that business? I'm just thinking like from accountability standpoints. I mean, we all like to think that nothing bad is going to happen, and this is the same as, you know, buying a bottle of wine from Pickett's. I get all the analogies. I understand that, because you could go to your car and pop the cork and chug that bottle in your car just the same as you could from whatever establishment.
Exactly.
But the question is that if it's case by case and not everybody has it, is the license going to look a little bit different? If somebody requests that, is there going to be a little bit of an additional fee just to make sure that they are, you know, minding their P's and Q's? Just what does the implementation of it look like is my question.
Madam Clerk.
It would just be an ordinance change. We would not charge anything additional for it. There are no other municipalities that charge extra for it.
Would it be denoted then, just like a box that you would check in their file, their like licensing file that says they have this?
No, because they can stop it at any time. They don't have to. They don't have to do it if they don't want to.
Kelly.
Okay, it's up to the business to do it. So they could do it now and then decide they don't want to do it. I mean, I wasn't going to implement any box checking or anything like that. I mean, it's up to the establishment if they want to follow this ordinance.
Your light's up.
Yeah, that's.
Did it get weird?
Yeah, I got weird.
And I think I was just going to state, to back up Shirley, if any establishment is applying for a Class A or Class B license, then this applies to them and they don't have to let us know if they're going to be selling or not. Just as long as they hold that license, they can abide by this ordinance or choose not to.
Got it. Thank you.
Mr. City Attorney.
I'm not the administrator of alcoholic beverage licenses, but you have all these existing licenses. Does it automatically apply to existing licenses, entities and persons who received the license before this amendment? My simple thought would be that they'd have to apply
Reapply?
for some form of confirmation. I could be wrong on that, but perhaps that's another staff check-in
Yeah,
with
I
the
can
Department
check
of Revenue
with
expert.
her, but when an establishment came to us and asked if they could do this, we went to the special agent in our area, and I asked her how we would go about doing it. She's the one that sent me the sample ordinance and that, and she said a lot of the other municipalities, this is what they do. At that time, I can go back and ask her, but I think she said all we would have to do is approve the ordinance, and it would be going forward like from today. But I
For
can-
everybody existing as
that
licensee
carries that
already.
class of license. yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It looks like to me that anybody that has a Class B license would automatically be able to allow the sale of alcohol
Because
being
it's
carried off.
Ordinance change citywide,
Correct,
so it
which would
automatically
impact
affects it
the
through
class.
Ordinance change, not a specific request.
Right.
Excellent.
Yeah,
Is
because
there,
it's no different than if we change a license fee.
correct. There's a motion, is there a motion on this?
I don't think so.
No.
Says, or as directed, so, well,
Motion to approve the
yeah,
ordinance.
because there's a motion on here.
So move to approve the ordinance.
Okay, we got a first, is there a second?
Second.
We have a first and a second. Let's do a roll call, please.
Alderman Pecorelli?
Aye.
Alderwoman Eichman? Aye. Alderman Hassan? Alderwoman Day?
Aye.
Alderman Barber?
Aye.
Alderman Craig?
Aye.
5 ayes, 1 abstention, motion carries. Thank you very much. Let's see here, G15, April to June 2024 monthly financial report. Madam Director of Finance.
Okay, so I have a memo here discussing the April to June financials. I also have each month separate following. I'll just touch on a few of the pieces because I know the Finance Committee has already heard this and recommended approval and acceptance. So through June, halfway through the year, the city was sitting at roughly $58 million. We settled all the taxes through May at that point. Obviously, high investment rates allow us to have additional investment income. Landfill siting revenues, those are running even to budget. We actually are annualizing a run rate at 2.7 million for 2024. Through June, the general fund, transportation aids, we get those on a quarterly basis. Fines and forfeitures for court is actually a little above budget. Ambulance billing is running at roughly 51% through June. And then, like I said, investment income is at $304,000. Year-to-date expenditures through June looks like it's roughly $600,000 under. However, we anticipate the projected budget to be roughly even by the end of the year. Debt service payments have been made. We have 5 active TIDs at the moment. All of the TID increment is roughly lower than what we had anticipated, and that just seems to decrease, unfortunately, due to the tax rate decrease. TID 6, TID 8, and TID 9 are the only ones that have ongoing development at the moment. There's no development plan for TID 5, and then TID 7 is essentially complete, and so we're just paying off the debt and paying the MRO on that. Tippage resources, those are running even in the solid waste fund and running into all the capital funds. All the resources are relatively running as expected in all the capital funds. The capital outlay fund, all the projects that were anticipated for the 24 budgets have either been completed or are in the process. The fire department ordered the battalion chief vehicle for the equipment replacement fund, the ambulance and the fire engine. Inspection ordered their replacement vehicle, and the highway department ordered their front end loader. The street improvement fund After speaking with Superintendent Schlater, it seems as though everything is going to be running pretty much even to budget for the local street improvement program. With that approval tonight for the shoulder machine, again, we used some funding from the street improvement program to support that purchase because it was essentially going to be the same money either way. Capital Improvement Fund, the only resources into that fund is interest income and park impact fees. And all those projects are ongoing. Highway projects, park improvements, DOT, South 116th Street Trail, the traffic light project, and then the other projects that Kelly had mentioned. And lastly, I'll just touch on the self-insurance fund. Resources are slightly below, but we're roughly $1 million under budget due to the claims. The claims are coming in a lot lower this year than anticipated and significantly lower than 2023. And so if you guys have any questions, I can answer them. Otherwise, the Finance Committee just asks that you guys accept this and place on file.
Discussion.
Motion to receive and place on file.
Second.
First and second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? As have a motion carries. Well done, Director. Moving into H, licenses. Who will be presenting this tonight?
I will be, Mayor.
Alderwoman Eichman, you've got the floor.
Thank you. Our License Committee met this evening. We had a couple of special guests join us, Fire Chief, Mayor. Thank you also for sitting through the entire council meeting for this piece. It's greatly appreciated with how busy you are. And our clerk, Shirley Roberts, also joined us this evening. The first applicant for fireworks for private event at Crystal Ridge Lodge was approved. Several things were gone over with the fire department expectations. To those that are hosting it that are with Crystal Ridge, this is for a birthday party celebration. It's a one-time event this evening. Fireworks are to start no later than 9:20 at the extreme latest because they need to be stopped by 9:30. They expect to last 5 to 10 minutes. Alderwoman Day brought up an excellent point that when the application was filled out, it's before it was getting darker out earlier. So she asked if the time for the fireworks could possibly be even pushed up, which it sounded like, according to the folks from Crystal Ridge, that could be a possibility. They'll be getting back in touch with us on that. They're also going to be touching base with the chief if needed a week prior to the event, being that it is mid-October. Alderman Craig was rightfully concerned about if the conditions are too dry to light off fireworks. And that's all I have on that topic, unless either of the other alders on licensing have anything to add to that.
I will ask them. Alderwoman Day.
I would actually like to ask that that be taken as a separate vote.
Okay, we'll do a separate vote on that. That sounds good. Anyone else want to comment on that for right now, but we will take that for separate action. Alderwoman Eichman, you got the floor back for the other three.
Thank you. And the next three are all new operators that were all approved for recommendation.
All approved. Got it. Is there a second on that?
I'll second.
We have a first and a second. We'll do roll call on this, please. On the three. The motion is to, what?
On the second, third,
Oh,
and
there's-
fourth ones, that's what we're talking about first?
Yeah, we're going with Jennifer, Holly, and Samuel. Those are the three right now for motion to approve.
Okay, Alderman Craig.
Aye.
Alderman Barber.
Aye.
Alderwoman Day.
Aye.
Alderman Hassan. Alderwoman Eichman.
Aye.
Alderman Pecorelli.
Aye.
6 ayes on those, motion carries. Separate action on the fireworks. Now, let me ask you this. Those are, first of all, it's a great point to bring up that the fact that it ends earlier, it gets darker earlier. Now, and I understand it was presented to them, it would be nice earlier, and that is a Sunday, right? October 20th, a Sunday. So now we've got children going to school the next day. So it would be really nice if they could back it up a little bit. In my opinion, a little bit. You know, it gets dark by 7 o'clock-ish. I mean, I don't know why you have to wait till that late, but I mean, perhaps that may be something that we, that could be brought up as a contingent. So with that said, Alderwoman Day, do you have a motion for that?
I just wanted to give a little bit more clarity and a few other concerns that I had. So obviously, the Sunday timeline, I was concerned about. The other piece that concerned me a little bit was that what's the fact that it's a private event. We have 10-plus public firework displays. Many of them happen in this, similar area to this. I know it's not the exact same facility, but it is very much the same neighborhoods that are impacted the most. And in our discussion with the applicant, they did discuss the potential that they might be looking to this as a future thing that they would offer as sort of a luxury package add-on for their events in the future. And my concern coming in that I voiced to the committee before the applicant came into the room is that I don't necessarily love the precedent for having a lot of the thought that there was going to be the ability to have private firework events in the city. I understand that there are businesses that have done it in the past, but it's just not something I'm comfortable with at the moment. So while at License Committee, I approved moving it forward for discussion at Common Council, I'm not supportive of the measure when it comes to a vote.
One question for you before we go to Mr. Barber. Would, let's say, instead of 9:20, if it was 8:20 ending at 8:30, would that make any difference at this point?
It's
For this
not.
one event?
I am leery of, in lieu of the applicant stating that they would like to use this as promotional luxury add-on for future events, I am leery of allowing, of that. The time, yes, for this, because it's a Sunday afternoon, I understand that. But for me, it's a bigger issue than just the one event.
All right, Mr. Barber, and then Alderman Eichman.
Similar to what you said, Mayor, I'm thinking that if it could be done before 8 o'clock and stipulate that in this one-time approval, I think I could support that. They cannot go ahead and carte blanche offer it without coming to us in the future to get approval. Although they may say that in there, but it will require future approval and they need to be made aware of that. So it could be stipulated in the approval that this is a one-time event. Any further consideration would have to be brought forward, and we would like to have it over by 8 o'clock.
So if they were looking for a 10-minute thing, it would be like start at 7:50, over by 8 o'clock, hard stop. Alderman Eichman.
Thank you. I also brought up in the License Committee meeting a strong discussion with the applicant when they had mentioned possibly using that for further promoting uses, that there has been discussion within the city that major changes are going to be happening. I shouldn't say major, but some significant changes are going to be happening to extraordinary events, how they're processed, the fees that are charged, and that I advised them to not do that until we come up with our new game plan for 2025, and that they would be taking that at their own risk as far as if they want to promote that or not. They understood that. They also had asked that we come to an advisement that perhaps when we're looking over these new regulations, fees, so forth for 2025, that we allow them maybe 3 times, just throwing a number out there, maybe 3 times for the whole year, that they can offer a firework permit to weddings, bar mitzvahs, graduations, and so forth. So it wasn't something that they were necessarily including in their package. They briefly mentioned it. And again, fireworks, as it was mentioned by the chief and myself, fireworks have been held before at Tuckaway, Polish Community Center for weddings and so forth in the past. This is not something new, as a one-time deal.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, so let me guess. Well, I'm not going to guess here. So if there's a motion to be made
I'll make the motion.
with an amended time as discussed by Alderman Barber, or what's your motion?
I feel that amended time is fair, considering that it gets dark out earlier, which Alderwoman Day had brought that up. So I feel that it's more than fair. Again, it's for a 60th birthday party, so it's not like they need to go through a wedding ceremony or something first. I can't see that that would ruin their evening.
So is your
with the
time-
amended 8 o'clock time, to be done by 8:30.
Well, okay.
My suggestion was 7:50 start, 8 hard finish.
Yeah, just whatever was a hard finish at
Well,
8 p.m.
I'm looking at it to be dark for them to have the fireworks go
It
off.
would be in October.
It's October 20th.
now at
Kelly's now searching to when sunset is. It's probably going to be like 5 or 6:21 or something like that. I th- And if it's done by 8 o'clock, geez, as I'm
'Cause when is
stalling.
daylight savings?
November.
Yeah, daylight savings is late this year.
But the sunset time, as she's,
I'm looking.
I know, but it's going to be dark by 8 o'clock.
The
so-
sunset with the horizon,
Kelly,
with the
it's
rock,
October
with the hill, it's usually a little bit brighter there than it is in our residential
Hold on.
backyards.
Hold on, what's,
Oh,
I think it gets dark by 7:30 right now. So sunset is 6:31. You're
okay, thank you. Sunset, 6:31. Thank you, Director. I was correct, right on the money.
But it does not
6:31.
get dark until around 7.
That's only in, that's only in
Exactly.
St. Martin's.
And then with how the sun sets at the
It's the middle
hill,
of the world.
It is
it's,
the middle of the
it's
road.
different than in our
So,
backyards.
You then put forth a motion with the time, and then we'll see how that goes.
For the fireworks to be lit off no later than 8 o'clock, commencing by 8:20. How about that?
Commencing means starting.
Stopping.
How about this? Since it's a 10-minute show, so if it starts at 8, it's got to be concluded by 8:10.
No, because I'd like to give them a few minutes buffer like we've done in the past for other firework displays.
But they're
in case-
asking for 10 minutes, right?
Kids go to bed at 8 o'clock,
Yeah.
9 o'clock. Why upset there?
I wanted to also add in the license committee meeting, and please correct me if I'm wrong, Alderman Craig, Ed had brought up the fact that if it was my district, I would be notifying the neighbors on Hawthorne of this firework display, and you seem to be in agreement to make a few phone calls to at least spread the word. So the neighbors will be notified too. It's not just going to be some surprise
Okay.
firework display to that neighborhood.
That's fine. So what is your strict stop time?
That time, 8:15.
So your motion is to approve the fireworks with a strict stop time of 8:15 PM. That's your motion. Is there a second to that?
I would second that.
Okay, we have a first and a second. Mr. City Attorney, comments?
With regard to this being a private event, I would suggest that part of the motion include that this request is relatively unique to the city with regard to firework permits, and that any future private event permits are subject to city review and determination with regard to same overall. So the city would decide whether or not does the city want to allow for private event fireworks.
Is that your amended motion?
Yes, my
Is that
motion.
your amended second?
Yes.
Okay, we are going to do a roll call vote, please.
Alderman Pecorelli,
No.
Alderwoman Eichman,
Aye.
Alderman Hassan,
Aye.
Alderwoman Day,
No.
Alderman Barber,
No.
Alderman Craig.
No.
4 noes, 2 ayes, motion fails. Moving on. Item I, vouchers and payroll approval. Motion approving the following. City vouchers with an ending date of September 26, 2024, the amount of $1,321,201.93. Point 2, payroll dated September 20th, 2024, in the amount of $480,990.51, and payments of the various payroll deductions in the amount of $507,769.42, plus city matching payments, and estimated payroll dated October 4th, 2024, in the amount of $483,000, and payments of the various payroll deductions in the amount of $255,000, plus city matching payments.
Motion to approve.
Second. We have a first and a second. Roll call vote, please. Discussion. Alderwoman Eichman.
Thanks. It's been brought to my attention by residents and constituents that sometimes we just approve this too fast. They don't feel that us alders are reviewing this when I believe that we all are. and they'd like more discussion to be brought up about this. Just a quick question. For the chamber, South Suburban Chamber Golf outing that was hosted, is that total amount that we spent on that pretty common, typical, I would assume, yearly? Without sitting here at the calculator and adding up the exact cost, is that usually annually what we spend on the South Suburban Chamber Golf outing? For those that want to attend it? Roughly $1,400.
Who even input that?
I think that's a Regat's question.
I say it's approved by the department head, so I'm not sure. But I can find out and let you know tomorrow.
I believe in the past that's about the same ballpark number, but since residents are asking me ask more questions about the finances, that one jumped out at me, so I thought I'd ask. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, hold on a minute. Mike's next, Alderman Barber's next. So your statement, Alderwoman, is that, so when this gets brought out and this gets put in the alders on Friday, what's going too quickly? I'm kind of confused in that statement. What do you mean by that?
Residents have stated to myself, and I believe to maybe possibly a few other alders, that because this comes out, we all have time to review it. Several of us I know go directly to the source, such as the department head, or to Danielle, who's always more than available to answer questions. But to the general public, they're seeing that we get this large amount and just pass the motion, vote on it without taking time to thoroughly go through it. So it's more of asking a question and making a statement that yes, indeed, we all do go through this with a fine tooth comb, at least I do, and I have faith that my fellow alders do as well.
Okay, so so yes, there's, you guys have
And that we're always open
dates.
to asking questions on this at any time.
Yes,
And we're
you are, as elected.
Understanding if we put Danielle on the spot and she may not have the answer right away, that she's always excellent at responding to us with the answer when needed.
Excellent. Alderman Barber?
Yes, I think that's why we get the packet, so that we can review it and so that we can ask questions. I mean, if there's a question, I think it's only fair to submit it to Danielle ahead of time so that it can be answered in the session. Because I've never had a constituent ask me about it, so it's up to me to review it and do the due diligence with items that I have questions about, and I've done that in the past. So I think if there is a question, it should be brought ahead of time so that it can be answered in session.
That makes total sense.
And I was just going to say, each department head approves their invoices, so I don't oversee every single invoice coming in. I do review that before it comes to you. I sign off on it before you get it in the packet. But like I said, ultimately, I approve finance related invoices, so I'm happy to obviously get you guys information or get to the department head to find out what it was spent on and if it's an average expense. But getting those ahead of time would be helpful. Yeah.
Thank you. I think that'll help clear some clarity and clarity for the
So
public.
thank you, Alderman
that's
Barber.
asking.
Alderman Knight, can you get the floor again?
I'm done.
Okay, and I too agree with that statement. I've never had any constituent ever ask, but if we did, it would be good to get it to you prior to the meeting. Okay, good. So we had a first and a second. There's a roll call, please.
Alderman Craig.
Aye.
Alderman Barber.
Aye.
Alderwoman Day. Aye. Alderman Hassan.
Aye.
Alderwoman Eichman.
Aye.
Alderman Peccarelli.
Aye.
6 ayes, no noes, motion carries. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
First and second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Motion carries. We are adjourned at 8:57 PM.